Hi everybody! In this video, we're going to do an intro to relations and functions, and at the end of the video, I want us to be able to express a relation a few different ways and identify the input and output of those relations. Okay, let's start off with definitions. So a relation is a relationship between sets of numbers, super basic. Now a function takes it one step further and says a relationship between sets of numbers where each input has exactly one output. So the way I like to think about this is this little graphic over here. All functions are by definition a relation because functions are just a more specific type of relation. But not all relations are functions. So make sure you don't confuse those two. A relation is the most basic form. A function gets a little bit more specific because it says each input has to have exactly one output. Okay, let's talk about this idea of input and output. Every function has an input and has an output. And the way I like to remember this is I like to think of a vending machine. So on a vending machine, you press a number, maybe it's A2, and then you get out, maybe you want a Doritos that day. Your input is going to be what you're inputting into a relation and function, and your output is going to be what you get out of it. So if we think in the terms of the math world, if y'all will, the input is going to represent our x values and the output is going to represent our y values. Now there are four different ways we're going to show a relation, and the first is this mapping diagram. So notice there's two kind of ovals and they each have the x's in the left and then the y's in the right. So each x value represents the input. So if you input -3 into this relation or function, you would get out a 6. If you put in a 1, you would get out a 5. Similar to if you typed in A2, maybe the -4 means you're getting Doritos. So that is your mapping diagram. The table, very similar, except for we're just putting it in boxes instead of circles. So -3 would get an output of 6, 1 would get an output of 5, so on and so forth. Ordered pairs, remember, those are just points on a graph. So we always say x comma y in parentheses. Our -3 will have an output of 6. 1 will have an output of 5. Same thing there. Notice these are all the same relation. And then lastly, we could graph it. All we're doing is taking these order pairs and we're putting it on our graph. So remember, this blue line, this is our x-axis. So that's going to be our input. So for example, this input here would be -3, and our output or our y value would be, I don't know, let's say, is that 8, 9, whatever that number is, that is going to be our output, okay? So that's the four different ways that we can write our relations and functions. And remember, each relation and function will have an input and an output.